This is a Neville Goddard understanding or epiphany story. What I learned from Neville's teachings and Ekhart Tolle's The Power of Now. Posted by Mayank Makes Music from Reddit. Hello. This is a very personal experience of mine. After studying the teachings of Neville every day in the last 1 year and some months, over the months, I was so entrapped in my misery I encountered in my 3D that I scoured through whatever teachings I could find from Neville and other spiritual teachers, like Florence Scovel Shinn, Dr. Joseph Murphy, Bentinho Massaro, being the prominent ones. I have also learned so much from this sub and many of the prominent teachers here. Just 1 week ago, I realized that I had absolutely ignored one very crucial and, in my opinion, the most important thing of all for the learner of the law. In all of those teachers' teachings, no matter how many techniques these teachers taught, no matter if they thought whether all of us were gods or not, no matter if they believed that Jesus Christ was a real man or not, one thing all of them absolutely emphasized on was in believing that you are now what you wish to be. Neville calls it living in the end. Florence Scovel Shinn calls it faith in the divine intelligence or God, that all your troubles are now gone. Bentinho Massaro and Dr. Murphy, too, have synonymous interpretations. I was so entangled in the externally apparent circumstances in my life in the last 1.5 years that even though I had studied and understood the practical implications of the law and had proven to myself again and again that it is indeed real, I still hadn't had any success in overturning this crucially important situation in my life, which had led me into learning about the law. Last week, I started reading Ekhart Tolle's The Power of Now again. I had started reading it some 3 months back, but that was because I was very desperate back then, even when I had developed a strong faith in the law. Nevertheless, I started reading this book again with the intention of reading it sincerely this time, and it changed me immediately. Here are some crucial things Tolle says about the now that have changed me, and I hope will help you as well. Tolle and the interpretation of time. Tolle asks us to imagine if there were no humans on Earth. Would there still be a mention of past or a future? Questions like, what's the date today? Or what's the time? Would be left meaningless if there was no one to ask them. Because our mind or ego thinks in terms of the time, past or future, that is the cause of all of the worry and misery in our lives. Tolle says, the mind, to ensure that it remains in control, seeks continuously to cover up the present moment with past and future. And so, as the vitality and infinite creative potential of being, which is inseparable from the now, becomes covered up by time, your true nature becomes obscured by the mind. Something that seemed so obvious but impacted me the most was this. There was never a time when your life was not now, nor will there ever be. If you can see where this is going, you're probably right. For Tolle, there is nothing of value except the now, the present moment. Isn't this the case for practically all the teachers of the law that we know of? How does Tolle's interpretation of time compare with Neville's teachings? I don't quite agree with what Tolle says about not thinking about the past or the future at all, because I have studied Neville enough by now to know how we can mold them using techniques like revision and living in the end. I can see that Tolle is heavily inspired by Buddhism, which in my limited knowledge about it, perhaps preaches renouncing worldly possessions, or at least to stop desiring. Please feel free to correct me on this. But even Neville and other teachers of the law tell us not to desire anything, so to speak, because you already have it. So Tolle is very specific about living in the present moment, and that is where Neville and other teachers' teachings come into play. Live as if you have everything you desire now. It is very obvious, I know, but it is very subtle. While Tolle's teachings suggest refraining from thinking about the future or past, in the sense that it will bring pain in doing so, Neville and other teachers also do that the same, but with a different perspective. They tell us to think of the future as if it is here, right now. Does it make sense? So in a way, both Tolle and the other teachers are preaching the exact same thing, i.e., to live in the now, but their approaches and purposes are slightly different. While Tolle just preaches about having control over your mind, mental diets, and doesn't ever mention having any sort of power over the events happening in your life, being a god and all that jazz, Neville specifically is clearly very vocal about it, and as we all know, very truly so. What I took away from Tolle's teachings. After reading The Power of Now, I have consciously been reminding myself of my now for the past week. What I mean by that is this. I ask myself often these questions. What is going on outside me at this very moment? What am I feeling right now? Etc. If I feel any anxiety in my body or any discomfort, I take a step back from doing whatever I am doing at that moment and ask myself, what problem do I have at this very moment? Not in the past, not in the future, not 5 minutes ago, not 5 minutes later, right now. And because I have also been practicing revisioning and visualization, I have seen that as soon as I ask myself that question, I answer, nothing. I tell myself that I am happy now. I am XYZ now. More importantly, I can feel it every time I realize that I truly have no worry right now. Essentially, there is no notion of waiting for anything. Everything I desire to have or be, it is now. Now, I am very surprised by the results this practice has brought in me. My self-concept has improved exponentially just in 1 week. I had been consciously trying to work on it for many months before this, but because I would always submit to my circumstances, I would always get back up and fall down. But because of this recent revelation I found through Tolle's book, I neither accept my circumstances anymore, nor do I see my self-concept as poor. It has been a significant change in me, honestly. Also, the personal situation I was working to improve in my life for over a year now has already shown as ever so slight improvement. Just in this time span of 1 week, I feel at peace and joyful. Now, it is not to say that I can't ever feel anxious ever again. Remember, our only job is to tend to the garden of life regularly. Today, almost the whole day, I was feeling anxious just because I saw an improvement in the situation I found so crucial to me. But that's okay too. Now I don't feel afraid of these negative emotions. It is not as crippling as it used to be anyway. But it will get much better because I will tend to my garden every day. Ending thoughts. I would actually suggest not reading The Power of Now if you're just beginning to study Neville's works. You might find it counterproductive because you're studying Neville to experience your desires, which is 100% okay. But Tolle comes across as preaching avoiding to think about the future or the past, let alone desiring something. You might find yourself torn between the two different approaches to personal happiness and bliss if you have just started this journey. However, you could give the book a read if you understand what Neville preaches and really want to understand the true essence of living in the end, aka living in the now, as per Tolle. Last but not least, you can have your moment of revelation while watching the Doctor Strange movie, or maybe even some stupid episode of Naruto, who knows? You don't have to even read Neville or anyone else. What I have realized is that spirituality is essentially a very personal journey. I have been impressed by other people's techniques and ways, but it hasn't worked for me 100% of the times. Only now I am starting to look inwards more and experience this strange yet beautiful spiritual realization every day. That being said, I truly hope that you could find something of your benefit from this post. Apologies if the post seems incoherent here and there. I tried my best to put it all together. Much love. If you also want to have your epiphany or your understanding narrated, please email us at info@positivelyangela.com, because faith comes by hearing the word.